Before becoming the Dean of the College of Media, Arts, and Communications, you served as the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Science. So my first question is, what key lessons or insights from that experience are you bringing to this new role as the CMAC?
The big thing is sort of collaboration and interdisciplinary. This might be the very first time that this college is so closely aligned. Prior to this, visual performing arts had to learn to work with sociology or work with behavior analysis or work with political science. The thing that I'm going to continue is to make sure, even though it's visual performing arts and mass communications, that we are still reaching out to have those cooperative learning experiences with other students across the campus. That's that because I think one of the advantages of being in a large college is that you get the benefits of being in a large college. As a smaller college, you don't get that. So that's one thing that's there. I think the other thing is keeping very active. As you know, almost every program in that college every night had something going on. So our two programs are very active: visual performing arts and mass communication. But I think we have to get the cadence to make sure that we're still representing 5 days a week as opposed to our special things. So I think those are the two big things that I'm bringing to the table.
Your role involves carrying out directives from the Board of Regents and the University President. But what is your personal vision for CMAC?
My personal vision is, I think, in this case, sometimes when you work at a university, what you personally believe may not be what people are telling you you should believe, but in this case, I'm happy to report it is. The main role of CMAC, it's been designated as a professional college. That means we really have one goal. Everybody coming into this place gets skilled up, gets all the learning capacity that they have so that they're able to get a job at graduation. And when we say a job, a full-time job in their field of study, not a related field of study, or going to graduate school or going into the military. So I think that that is sort of the thing that I'm bringing here, wanting to make sure that we are, and I'm not saying we haven't in visual performing arts and mass communication not been professionally minded, but that's going to be the key thing now. I'm going to be evaluated as a dean based on the performance of our students, not whether or not they're getting A, B's, and C's, and then going and working in retail, not related to what they're doing, but whether or not we've admitted 100 students and 20 of them graduate in the spring, what percentage of that 20 actually have a job? So that's sort of the thing that is going to guide me. And what that means is we have to look at every single class, every single degree sequence, and ask, are these the right skills that a student needs in order to be employed? And if that's not the case, we've got to get in a room, just like we did here today, look over that curriculum and say, this is not working, let's do something else.
How do you plan to shape CMAC's identity and success beyond the broader institutional goals that the institution has?
I think, again, it's all tied back to this ability to show the success. I think parents, the legislature, people in the community, the Chamber of Commerce, they love coming to graduation and doing the clapping and the yelling and the screaming and all the rest of that stuff. But at the end of the day, they go, okay, you graduated 500 students, Savannah State. How many of them are working? And I think we're going to make our mark by being able to say every May and every December. Our actual benchmark is pretty high. People say we should not have the benchmark, but I do not believe in low goals. And the benchmark is that 85% of our December and May graduates are going to have a job at graduation or very shortly thereafter. And so I think that that's how we're going to make our mark. I think we'll have more companies partnering with us, coming to wanting to work with us. I think we'll have more donors who want to give to us to make sure the students have the scholarships that they need in order to be successful. I think the community is going to be energized to know that that tax dollars are going to a place that really is very, very serious about student success.
Our college recently transitioned from the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences to the College of Media, Arts, and Communication. When students come back in the fall of 2025, what are those key differences that they'll see between the old college and the new college?
Oh my gosh, I think they're going to see a tremendous difference, especially those who are in this college. So every syllabus, every class is going to be tied to some sort of industry-related piece. We're going to have something called performance centers. So There's not going to be really mock anything. There is no let's see this and let's work on this project and then put it in a drawer or keep it on the jump drive. Everything in that classroom has to add up to somebody being able to put something on a portfolio at the end of the semester. What happens generally in higher ed is that students diligently work very, very hard on a senior portfolio. But in those 4 years, they're missing out on internships, scholarships, jobs, all those things because we're waiting 4 years to get them ready when at the end of the semester, if there's an employer who wants to give them an internship, they should have something to show. And far too many students, and this is not just a Savannah State issue, this is a higher education issue. Far too many students are paying for an education, and really at the end of the semester, when you ask them, what did you get out of this course and how is this going to help you move forward? To be honest and truthful, they cannot say what that is, or they're having difficulty expressing that. I think what students are going to see now is focused conversations in every classroom. That this class is leading you to get somewhere. Doing these 5 things will help make you more competitive, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to see more real world. Partnerships. For example, we have a couple of classes. One of the signature projects is that we're working now with WJCL, and that class literally, it may be called something communications blank, blank, and blank, but for the most part, it's WJCL. I mean, that's the class where students are learning how to write, how to shoot, how to edit, how to write VOSOT, and put together packages there. It helps the student with professional skills, but it also helps the industry do what it can to help groom talented students and get them ready for work.
What were some of those key challenges or shortcomings in the previous structure that led to the sweeping restructuring, not just in our college, but the other 4 colleges here on campus?
I think I don't want to speak for the president, but during his 100-day address, I think it's pretty clear that he was very clear that we have to do a better job of launching students into the world of work. I think his direct quote was, I think he said something like he talks to the chancellor quite a bit about a lot of things, but the one thing that they most consistently talk about is that it is a disservice to invite young people to a campus and then not to have them have employment opportunities. I think given what's going on nationally, given what's going on in terms of the accountability and people holding tax, especially tax-supported institutions like public institutions like Savannah State, people are expecting outcomes for their money. They are not expecting students to come to college and then be unemployed or not be able to, at the very least, pay back their loans. Or to provide for their families and that kind of thing as well. I think what Dr. Worrell has done is to reorganize the college in such a way that moving forward, students will come into something called the University College to get all that good critical thinking and knowledge and learning and first year experience and how to be a student, and then they're handed off to a college of engineering, college of education, college of business, a college of media, arts, and communication, and whatever other college of health sciences when we get there to go out in the world. And I think that is the most significant thing. It's actually revolutionary when you think about it, because that's really not how universities traditionally have been measured. They're measured on, you got 10,000 students, you graduated 5,000, and you clap at graduation and that's it. What Dr. Worrell is asking us to do to say, thanks for getting them across the stage, but how well did you get them across the stage? And we know you get them across well when they're going into an industry job.
So that leads me actually to my next question. President Worrell has a great deal of experience in technical college system. His experience at some institutions are notable, but some feel that leading a 2-year institution is vastly different from overseeing a 4-year HBCU. Some students now wonder if CMAC's new direction, with its increased focus on hands-on training and industry partnerships, might reflect a slightly different lean towards the technical field of a college rather than a traditional institution of a 4-year institution. How do you respond to those concerns?
I think they're legitimate concerns. I think anytime where you're kind of you're going north on 95, and then someone says we're going south on 95, it's time to ask some questions about that. I do sort of disagree with the framing because unless your last name is Winfrey or Bezos, all colleges are technical college. The goal is to get you to employment so that you can be a leader in your career and your industry. So, the technical college system, I think, is leading the way nationally. Four-year institutions are actually modeling what they're seeing there because those students are coming out with stackable credentials. They're coming out with marketable degrees. They're coming out with jobs that they can go out immediately and start taking care of their families and those types of things as well. Um, because I'm learning how to be a social media strategist does not mean I'm not a critical thinker or I'm not dealing with ethics. Let me give you an example. If I gave a student an assignment as a photographer and say, go take 10 photos that you think best represent Savannah State, and they come back with all men. Well, number one, it's 65-35, so that clearly is not a representation. So that's a conversation of representation. What is it about your worldview that you think Savannah State is only a male institution? Or let's also be very clear: they come back and there's not a single person of non-color there. There's a B in our name, but this institution is for anybody who walks in the door, or people with differing abilities, or members of the LGBTQ community. So you still have the opportunity, as I'm training someone to be a social media strategist, to critically think, to be an ethical person, to be a leader in their field, and all of those types of things as well. But at the end of the day, I think students, I think the fact, so I'm actually proud that they're asking questions because this is exactly what we're telling students to do. I don't care who it is, what their name is, what doctor they have in front of their name, what PhD they have at the end of the name. Don't take things at first face value. Ask questions, and so it is a legitimate. It's a legitimate question. But the thing I will say is, at the end of the day, I don't care what it is—a technical college, a 2-year college, a 4-year college. We ought to be resolute that a student, when they leave this place, has some place to go and are able to earn a living to take care of their families, themselves, and pay back their loans if they have them.
As the former dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, you were in a unique position back in 2024 during the spring semester when budget cuts affected the visual arts performing program. Will you walk us through that? What factors went into making a difficult decision like that?
Yeah, it was very difficult. So, unlike a private institution, we're run by a public board, and the board has very, very strict metrics. If you don't have a minimum number of students or a minimum number of graduates in the program, it is automatically assumed that that program is going to be deactivated unless the institution says, "Hey, let's not do that." It's part of that accountability piece, and it's part of that whole piece as well. So what we had to do basically was to look at all the programs that did not fit um, the Board of Regents requirements for what makes a healthy program, and then make adjustments that's there. And of course, visual performing arts was actually on that list at some point, not because of the number of students. They had 90 students in the program, making it the ninth largest enrolled program at the entire university. You know what the problem was? They couldn't get people across the stage. 90 people and 3 graduates in 1 year, 4 graduates in another, 1 graduate another year. So this process forced that program to say, what is going on that our students can't get across the stage? And they did a brilliant job. They looked at every course, got rid of some courses that were troublesome for students. We had one course in that sequence that had almost a 42% course success rate. That meant almost 35% of every student was failing, or 60% of the students were 50% or so, the students were failing those classes. So they fixed that problem as well. They got rid of sort of antithetical courses that didn't even have anything to do really with being a performer or being an arts leader. And they graduated in this year almost twice as many people that they graduated in the year before. So we know those changes are happening. Sometimes when you are faced with adversity, whether at work or in life, you take a step back and start thinking about what I could do differently. This program is now one of our star programs, and the reason I know it's a star, there's no way in the world the president would have formed a college with a program that is dead or thought to have been dead. This program is on the rise, and I was just telling the group here, MassCon better watch out because they're doing some very interesting things to get their enrollment up as well. So.
So how has that experience influenced your priorities as the Dean of the College of Media, Arts, and Communications?
It's going to be focusing on enrollment for sure. We want to make sure that there are enough students who are coming in. We just talked about being very aggressive about going out to high schools, going out to middle schools and putting them on a pipeline, explaining what it is that a media career is and what it does and what it does not. We're very serious about retention. So we talked about today, if a student is absent from the class, it is an emergency. I'm expecting you to call the National Guard because if that student is missing, don't assume that they're at Island Hurricane or whatever the club is, drinking all night, and it could be something wrong. There could be a social emotional problem. There could be an emergency. The student may have worked 5 jobs. The class is at 9 o'clock and they overslept. So when we are more intentional about keeping students in the class, that is a win for us. And that's one thing that I learned, to sort of be very, very intentional about making sure that, almost like the military, we're not going to leave any single student student behind. And I think that's going to be the big lesson that we're going to have moving. And then graduation, making sure that students are on the pathway to graduation. Unfortunately, we may not make our metric of 85% of all students in December having a job because we're just getting started. And what you may know is that the pathway to successful employment is 6 to 8 months. Students who are successful in December started in February or March looking for that job, sending their applications out, going to interviews and that sort of stuff as well. We've missed that window. So we're going to do the best we can with the students that we have, making sure they have a resume, making sure they have a portfolio. I'm surprised at the number of students in both mass comm and visual performing arts who don't even have a LinkedIn profile. This is where employers are not on Instagram. They're not on TikTok. They're on LinkedIn. Making sure they have a LinkedIn profile, making sure they actually have a resume that makes sense, that sells them pretty well. And one thing we're going to do starting this semester is to make sure that every student walking across the stage has the ability to participate in a series of mock interviews. The first time for the big dream job that you have should not be the first time you're answering questions about, tell me a little about you just did. A little bit about yourself and why you think you should have had that speech, that practice 15 times to be comfortable. So I think we're putting in the things in place to make sure we're going to be successful. And those are really the big pieces of focus that we're going to do.
In reference to internships, fellowships, and fieldwork, what opportunities are currently being developed to ensure that students have that hands-on real-world training in their chosen fields?
Yeah, so we're doing 2 things. If a class is in, let's just say it's a social media class, we're making sure the person teaching that class has a responsibility of getting on the phone and calling social media companies, PR companies, strategic communication firms, asking if there are current opportunities within their company that they can actually assign their students real world projects to do in the class. So that does 2 things. It gives them actual professional practice. Well, 3 things. It gets them in touch with someone at a company who can write them a letter of reference, that sort of thing as well. And it gives students actual practical skills that they can actually put on their resume. I actually helped with the Coca-Cola campaign with company X, Y, and Z. And we are hiring, hopefully next semester, career specialists whose only job will be, that's the only thing they will be doing, reaching out to companies, getting a list of internships, scholarships, externships. We want to actually implement something called Shadow Day. Sometimes a student may not want to fully invest in a company. They may not know enough, right? So instead of committing for a whole semester, how about spending the day with a television news journalist, going around seeing what he or she does? Then I go, I really like this. But equally as important, this is for the birds. I don't want to do this, right? In an internship, you've invested 6 months to find out this is not for me. A Saturday opportunity, in a couple of hours, not this, but something else. So I think those are the things that we're going to do to sort of make sure that our students are getting the opportunities that they're there. But to be clear, as I said today, it is not the students' responsibility. They're the people paying us. It is our responsibility to go out and find those opportunities and to prepare them to do well.
So those opportunities will be integrated into the coursework or will be offered separately?
Integrated into the coursework. So in fact, we're calling them performance centers. So for example, we have a class right now that's working on the planning for the Black Heritage Festival. So when you think about that, if I'm a arts leadership person looking to get into managing a theater company or something, think about the value of that, of being able to say, I plan the signature event for Black History Month in the city of Savannah. I booked acts. I called people. I worked with the venue. They get a letter of recommendation from someone, and that's actually in the class. That is much more exciting, in my mind, than sitting in a class with a PowerPoint going, if you're going to organize a festival, here are the 5 things that you do. And I think it's the integration of those real world projects actually in a class, solving real world problems is what I think it's going to be the thing that makes our students win, and it's going to make them much more marketable than a lot of their competition who's just sitting in a classroom watching PowerPoints.
So President World did touch on the partnership with WJCO during his 100-day address. How will students be selected to be in that class to participate with WJCO?
Well, so for any class, if the class is tied to the Black Heritage Festival, for example, the whole class of the 28 people, every person in that class has a role for that project. For WJCL, of course, everybody in the class, the 2 outcomes are writing 2 VOSOTs and finishing 1 package. So everybody in the class will write the 2 VOSOTs, and the 1 package. But remember, we're in a competitive field. Just because you write it doesn't mean it's going to get aired, right? So if we're creating competition in the class, the students who are really serious are going to rise to the occasion. But what the students cannot say is they did not have the opportunity to do that. And heretofore, we've not created the opportunity to even have a relationship with WJCL or WSAB or any of the other television in that sort of way. We've had 1 or 2 along the way sort of students who are, as part of their own initiative, have done a lot of stuff. But to be frank, I think this might be the most controversial thing I'll say in this whole thing. I'm not so sure Savannah State did that. I think for those students who have gone out and gone beyond, they were going to be successful whether they came here with FAMU or went to Jackson State. It didn't matter. They had it in them. What we need to do is to make sure that the kid who's sitting in the back, who's not doing anything, to say, John, come on, we have this. Come join the conversation. Let's get your resume. Those types of things as well. So by embedding it in the class, I think that that's the best way. And really, we're really following, to be honest and truthful, the Tiger's Roar model. You cannot graduate with a degree in mass communication without having at least published 1 story or having some interaction. That's not because people love journalism. That's because you don't get a degree without participating in the thing, right? So same sort of thing. You cannot get out of here unless you have been engaged with some sort of external organization, whether that's radio, TV, strategic communication. We have a class that's working with Curtis Cooper, who's going to be developing a mini campaign for that organization. That's not work that you put on a drum drive and just go. That's actual work that Curtis Cooper is going to be there. And so, would some of those students have participated with Curtis Cooper? Probably. With 28 at a time, maybe not. But you know why they're going to do it now is because it's a requirement of the class. And I think that that's going to be how we're going to get more of our students to be stars in the program, as opposed to students who would have been stars anyway without us.
So I have one more question, and I'll give you the floor so you can speak. I want you to explain to me chalk and wire because when I was transferred here as a junior last year, chalk and wire was very instrumental in learning how to not necessarily create a resume but a portfolio. I want you to explain to me and also the viewers how JMC uses chalk and wire so it benefits the students in the long run when they graduate because you have to use it during practice. So explain chalk and wire, how vital it is, how important it is, and how we utilize it through the semester.
Yeah, so chalk and wire is extremely important. That's part of what we talked about. That's called a summative portfolio. So every class you're doing something to build this big sort of portfolio there. So you're gaining skills. So it's sort of the same thing that we're doing now. Here's the difference. Instead of waiting for culminating portfolio to take with you in your senior year. If I'm a sophomore who wants to participate in a TMC event, or if I want to participate in the City of Savannah internship, and the internship is about videography, I don't need all the rest of that stuff there. The person who's sitting there who's evaluating me wants to see how well I can shoot and how well I can edit, and if I can use a tripod and a mic. So the end of the semester portfolio is focused extremely on the very specific thing in real time that a student wants to do. The end of the semester portfolio or end of the college or the senior portfolio is sort of a culmination of what people have done. So it has still been very, very helpful for students because we still have very few programs at the university that require students to have any sort of portfolio for work. All we're doing with this switch is saying, instead of the 4-year mark, every semester you leave, you gotta have something in the portfolio, and it's gotta be polished today, not we're working on getting it polished 3 years from now. So that I think that's what it is. But it's still anything you can do to have a portfolio, to learn how to sell yourself, to think. And it's a critical thinking piece because when you're sitting there, you're really making a determination of what should go there. That is uh, you could have 5 or 6 things, right, to go into a portfolio, and you're making a strategic decision based on what your view of the work world is about what should go. So we like the thinking part of it, whether or not it gets students a job or not. It's the critical thinking thing to have them be self-aware and to understand what their skill levels are and how they can improve over time.
I was a MO1 fellow this summer with a fellowship at WJCL 22 News here in Savannah. What made you choose, or what made Savannah State choose WJCL as a partner rather than WTOC or WSAB?
I think it's sometimes, remember, I don't want to say remember, you may not know. I have been an internship supervisor and for most of my career at TV stations and stuff. Remember, the primary job to the stakeholders and the owners of stations is not to supervise interns. They actually have a job to do. And during rating seasons, it is a really big job to do there. I think a lot of stations may or may not have the capacity to sort of be invested in the same way that others have. I think one of the Hearst business models is, I think it's written sort of into their platform to sort of have this sort of thing as well. So they may be open to having a summer fellow or those types of things as well. It does not say that the other station, in fact, I think the count is WSAB actually has employed more Savannah State students than WJCL. But I think in recent years, but I think what we're seeing is the institutions or the organizations that have the time. This year, 2025, WJCL has the time. Next year, they may get a different mandate from the corporate office at Hearst, may not have the time. Next year, it might be WSAB. So we're actually in talks with all the stations in town to see what we can do to sort of open up their platforms. But to be clear, this market has been extremely generous to this institution. I mean, we have interns, people visiting the station shadow day. We've had people employed at all 3 places there. So I don't think it's a competition in any way. I think for this year, who's best positioned, and next year it really could be TLC or it could be WSAB.
How do we incorporate the radio station that we have here on campus into some of those partnerships? fellowships, because we have some students that work at the radio station. I remember I was talking to one student and I asked him if he wanted to have lunch. He was like, well, I got to go work at the radio station. And I was like, we have a radio station on campus. So how do we foster more partnerships and opportunities outside of the campus and then bringing those into so everybody can benefit? Because it's not just media, well, not media, but news stations, but it's also the radio station as well that need opportunities for students because they might have a passion for it.
It is an opportunity I think we need to do more work in exploring because it's right here on our campus. It's like a jewel right here. And traditionally, there's not been a integrated relationship with the academic side and the actual radio station side. I think we have to do more work on that. We have had students participate, go through the training, have their own shows. In fact, I think in the spring I listened to, it might have been, who was it? Oh, Christian
Christians on
he has a radio show as well. So it's not that we don't have those opportunities, but what's different now is there is not a Tiger radio class, and the class is actually our campus station. I think that's what we need to do, is to have the whole class be our campus radio, running the station, selecting the music, doing the production, doing the voiceovers, all those types of things as well. There's work to do there for sure, and it's something that we're certainly going to look at because it's a missed opportunity, and it's literally right there, wherever it is.
So I'm gonna give you the four. Classes start in literally a week. What do you want to tell CMAC students?
I want to tell them to sort of be open to the new possibilities and opportunities. I want to acknowledge the fact that none of us like change. And remember, this has been a change for all of us. The president walked all the deans in the room and said, hey, guess what we're doing? And we're like, what are we doing? So when we left in May, this is not what we're coming to, but the reality is things have changed. So I want them to be sort of open to the possibility. I think the biggest thing that students are going to notice that's going to make them more uncomfortable is that we're going to be demanding more of them to invest more of their time, more of their energy, more of their thought processes into their own careers. Almost every conversation we're going to be having in classrooms are going to be, what are you working on? What's in your portfolio? Have you updated your LinkedIn? Have you applied to a scholarship? What are you doing there as well? And we're calling it kind of the music model. You may have that 1 hour lesson where you go to the piano teacher or the tuba teacher and you do that one thing, but you're spending 15, 20 hours a week getting ready for the next week's lesson. And that's the model. And I think, to be honest and truthful, if I can be honest and truthful, we have some stars who are putting in that work because, again, that's kind of who they are. But for the most part, we have been treating professional fields like visual performing arts and mass media sort of like some other fields where you kind of come and take some notes and you go home. That's not how that works. You go to class, you have real world projects to work on, and sometimes we want to see the student who will spend 5 hours in the edit booth to get that one edit right. That's the student who's going to be the star student who's going to do well. And when we get those students there, I am very, very confident that we'll be at the point where we can say 85% of our May graduates have jobs at graduation, 85% of our December graduates there as well. So we're looking for them to partner with us. We can't do it alone. We can do our part, but at the very end of the day, we need students. So have an open mind, come to the university being ready to work. For our new class of students coming in, it won't be a problem because this is all they will know. When you've been here for 3 years and it's your last semester and someone said, what? I got to do what? It's going to be a struggle, but we're asking them to partner with us and just to make sure that they're doing their part so that we all can sort of celebrate their success.
I lied. I have one more question. One thing I realized, I had the opportunity to sit into some of the practical classes last semester. And one thing that I realized is that, yeah, the teacher, the professor can do everything that they can to get that child or that student to graduate. They get that degree in mass communications with a minor in political science or public administrations or what have you, but they never get a job in that field. And does that necessarily kind of backfire on the teacher? Because they've done everything they got. They got the degree. The student got the degree, but say a student goes into they go to be a teacher. Like, how does that affect the student, not the student, but the institution and the professor as an outcome?
Okay, let me ask you this way. You take your car to the car shop, the brakes are wrong, and you pay the person to fix the brakes, and you drive that car out, and the brakes are still broken. Is that the customer fault, or is that the person who's responsible for taking your money and fixing the brakes? My position is very clear, and we had this discussion. It was a tough discussion with faculty today. You can do a lot of things in this life. You have a PhD, you have a law degree, you can do anything you want to, but this job requires you to be majorly invested in students. So when you have those students who don't appear to be motivated, invite them to your office. Why are you not motivated? How can I help? What can you do? What can I do to help you? Now, mind you, there might be one or two students there, but it's not going to be 15 out of 30 that you graduate who are not there. I just don't believe our students are that untalented. I believe they're actually very, very talented. I think part of the job, this job that you're signing up for, is to be all in. It may require you to go out in the field and shoot with students and show them how to do it. It may require you to be here on Saturday and Sunday, like Dr. Arnold is with the band. It takes a different sort of person to teach in a professional school. So I like to take it out of the framework of blame or not blame, but I am very firm that if you're calling yourself a mechanic, your job is to fix the cars. Job is to fix the cars. And if you can't find a way to fix the cars, you got to do something else other than fixing cars. You're calling yourself a faculty member. Your job is to pour your heart and soul into the development of students so that they can have the best future possible. Sometimes that's easy for some students. It's just a little chat. For other students, it's a yell and a kick in the pants. And I think that that's sort of what is going to have to. But your overall arching question is the dean going to be accountable if 3 years from now we're still only having 2 people get jobs out of 10? Absolutely. And if the dean doesn't know what to do, maybe it's time to get a new dean who does know what to do. So there is a lot of accountability here. And I think far too long, and I think what we're here, whether you agree with what's happening in Washington or not, one thing is clear. The public is very, very clear that there's got to be increased accountability for tax dollars. And if we are institutions that are taking the public's money and promising them, remember, they get something out of this too. It's not just mom and dad who's proud to see that person walk across the stage. We're getting people who are capable of going into industries in Georgia and helping Georgia win. We don't help Georgia win if we're not getting talented people into key industries. And I think that is sort of what we need to do. So we're going to be, there's a lot of work to do. All of us, faculty, may have to be retrained. How do you take a young person who's so used to just using AI to create videos on their phone and then telling them they actually have to pick up a camera and actually edit? What do you say to them? How do you make that important to them? So I think it's not just us doing something to the students. All of us, the faculty, the deans, the staff that we have here, all of us are pivoting to deliver education differently here. And so it's not blame or not blame. The question is, are we positioned to do what we need to do to make sure students are successful? And not everybody has that commitment.
All right. Thank you for talking.
Absolutely. Glad